This is the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best tips and strategies in the world to help you become a smarter, more effective tennis player. You'll hear interviews with Pro Tour doubles players and coaches, including easy-to-use lessons to improve your game and win more matches. My name is Will Bocek, founder of the Tennis Tribe, doubles strategy coach, and host of the show. All right, and we're live. So we're here with Christo van Rensburg. Christo, I was going to start with all of your career accomplishments, but I think that would take up the entire show. So I'll go with the brief highlights. You have singles wins over a bunch of former number one players, including Pete Sampras in straight sets at Wimbledon. You were the number one doubles team in the world with Paul Annacone. You won the Australian Open in 1985, and now you're the captain for the South African Davis Cup team. You're a former Olympian, and a lot of other accomplishments that I don't, or that we don't have time to mention. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Will, for reaching out to me, and I've been checking into your stuff you've been doing, and it's great what you're doing. I know it takes a lot of work and effort, and always great when you see a lot of people following you, and hopefully more will sign up unless I chase them away.
Well, hopefully you'll bring more to the podcast than chasing them away. But yeah, I was really looking forward to this conversation because obviously it's a doubles podcast, and anytime we can talk to someone who is one of the best doubles players of all time, that's a great opportunity. But in the past, I've mostly had current or at least more recent players. So I'm excited to dive into kind of how the doubles game has evolved. But one place I wanted to start, when I was doing some research, I found that I found an interview with you, and I don't know when this was done because it wasn't dated, but with the Capital Area Tennis Association there in Austin, Texas, where you live. And they asked you which modern players remind you of yourself when you played. And you said Taylor Townsend. Why is that?
Well, you know, when you see someone in the US Open on the biggest stage play a women's tennis match or a men's for explanation purposes, and they go 109 times to the net in one match, you are really enjoying that, because that is so old school. But I think the game, I've talked to a lot of people at the top, the baseline game is soon going to be plateaued. There's only so much you can do from the baseline. So you're either going to have to find ways that either go to the net, move people forward, backwards, or find something. So that could be the way you get your ranking up and go past the rest of the people. There are so many people that Lendl uses the phrase west to east, west to east. And they are so good in it. So, you know, that's why when someone decides to move forward or backwards, you kind of have to say you like that.
Yeah.
It's a pity. I hope she makes a comeback. I know she had a kid, someone said, but I hope she makes a comeback. And I'm running professional tennis tournaments here in Austin. Maybe she'll call me and come and play in my events.
Absolutely. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. The match that comes to mind was, I think she beat Halep in the US Open.
I watched every match she played. It was amazing how she made people panic.
Yeah.
Until they sorted it out way deeper into the tournament.
Yeah.
But well done for her. So excited. It's just nice to see someone have or do something differently. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I take it when you played, you didn't spend a lot of time at the baseline then?
You know, in the warm-up I did.
Yeah.
And my coach forced me to play 1 point a game from the back. And that was like a death sentence for me. Why do I have to do it? Now, obviously, he explained why, and it paid off in my singles career. But wow, was I happy when I got that 1 point from the baseline out of the way, and I could look at him and then say, are you satisfied now? I played your 1 point from the back. I'm going forward. And I mean, we'll get to the doubles, but and we'll talk about that stuff.
Did you say 1 point per game?
Yeah, listen, I came in on first serve returns, second serve returns. I serve volley every ball because in tennis, you want to use what your weapons are. Mm-hmm. That's another subject we can go way deep in.
Sure.
So why force me to play and do things that other people can do? And then I'll give you a great example. I was in South Africa in December. That's where I'm from. So I live in Austin, Texas. So there's always 4 or 5 weeks in December. You would go home and 2 weeks in April. That's the only time I got to see my family. And I remember I was training there and I really worked on my ground shots. So I got to the Australian Open. My coach flew from New York, Peter Fishback. That was amazing coach. He only coached 3 players. The one won the Australian Open, Peter Fishback. He coached Brian Teacher, who won the Australian Open singles. Then he coached Manstorf, that was 18 in the world from Israel. And I always say I was his suck player that only got to 19. So he obviously knew a lot about the game, and I'm still very good friends with him. So I arrived the first 2 days. I said, you got to check out how good my ground shots are. And he said, it's very good, but there's probably 300 or 400 people in the world that hits it the same as you and better. But when you go to the net, there's a lot less. So which one do you want to play? Yeah. So I said, you make me so mad when you say that stuff. And anyway, I went to the net again.
Yeah, it sounds like it worked out for you. So I want to talk about we've touched on this already with Taylor Townsend, how she's so unique in today's game. But as far as doubles goes, how have you seen the modern doubles game kind of compare to when you played in the 80s and 90s? How has it transitioned?
I think when you look back, you had to win at the net. It was just how the game was structured. Mm-hmm. Now I see a lot more, and probably why is because in tennis you have to use your weapons. So when you look at the modern game, do you think the people have better ground shots than volleys? In our time, it was the opposite. The good players had better volleys than ground shots, and it kind of evolved. So I can see now in the modern game that people are serving and staying back. Mm-hmm. And rightly so. The problem I have is that coaches want the players to go to the net to put pressure on. Mm-hmm. And I buy into that. But remember, if your player is not good at the net, you're putting him in a position where he knows that's not his A game. So what's going to happen when it gets really crunch time and the heart rate goes to 180 and just going? Yeah. They're not going to make 100 balls or 90 out of 100 because they're nervous. And I got a book from Billy Knight, the guy the basketball coach, he signed it for me. That was at Ohio State, I think. Is that correct? The basketball coach.
Indiana? Bob?
Yeah, Indiana. Yeah. Sorry. And he signed a book. And there was this one line that he said to me, when you really need things to happen that's important, make sure your players are in their best positions. Mm-hmm. So because coaches are from my era, they want to get the players to the net because they could do it. But It's a fine line of doing that to some players that are just better. I mean, Lendl said it one day also great to me because Lendl and Gomez played doubles. They were 2 baseliners. And they played completely the different way than all the top other teams. And they were very good. I think they were in the top 8 teams in the world when they played together. Mm-hmm. And Lendl said one day, you're going to come watch us play doubles. I said, why? You never play doubles. He says, come and watch. Gomez is going to be on the deuce side. He has a huge forehand. I'm going to be on the ad side. I have a huge forehand. We're going to stand behind the doubles alley, and they're not going to get any ball to our backhands, and we're going to rip and dip forehands, and they're going to not know where to volley, and we're going to take them to the cleaners. And rightly so. They put themselves in position by hitting forehands, and they were the two of the best forehands in the game.
Yeah.
So now if they would play now, if they play now for a coach, what do you think the coach is going to say? He's probably going to say, hey, you got to get to the net. You got to get to the net.
Yeah.
That I do understand. I'm not blaming anyone.
Yeah.
But you've got to understand where your player is the best and find a game plan so he can use his weapons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So why? So it sounds like you said when you were playing, the strengths of the players were at the net, and then players today are more comfortable at the baseline. Why do you think that's changed?
This is hard because I'm not there in the middle of it. You know, these are questions probably for the guys who are commentating there. Okay. I would say that in our times, everything was a lot faster. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like, you got to start doing something because you can't just keep running every ball down. Yeah. And just before I started, 10 years before me, they had 3 Grand Slams on grass. So there was a lot of that stuff, also the surface and the balls. Mm-hmm. A lot of people now feel that because of the equipment, the ball is just coming so much faster, and because of the strings, the ball has got a lot more shape. So if you're not familiar at the net, and this just kind of evolved, and then 1 or 2 guys do really well at the back, like Agassi started, then everyone thinks, okay, they want to play like him. I have a feeling my philosophy is now, if there's a 14-year-old or 15-year-old now that could become really good at the net, in 5 years, everyone is going to want to copy him again.
Right.
So I think it's a cycle thing. It's going to have to happen. The baseline game, like I said, is getting plateaued.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense that it would cycle because typically with, any sport or any type of system like that, if you're slightly different than everyone else, then that's going to be like a strategic advantage, right? Because, if I'm playing against a bunch of baseliners and then I come up against Taylor Townsend who serves and volleys, I'm naturally not going to be used to it, right? So
she beat the number 1 in the world by making a panic. Right. That should tell everyone, you should become creative. You should have a coach that's creative. Mm-hmm. Find out if you have something that we can use in a match. I saw the other day a girl that is 200 in the world that trained here with my player the other day. She chipped a forehand when it was short. I was shocked how good it was. Mm-hmm. And I'm like thinking, I wonder if she had a coach, if the coach would say, hey, take that shot away. You got to hit a forehand top spin. No one slices a forehand. But I tell you, it was as good as the best slice I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So now it's hard. I don't know what's going to happen with her, but she's obviously doing something that a lot of people are not going to know how to counter that shot.
So she was doing it on all of her forehands, or
just kind of moving forward, and it was low. Okay. So now take example, if she rallies and rallies and rallies and doesn't get a short ball or get something to control the point, mm-hmm. you need variety. Are you going to hit one high or one low? Are you going to hit one harder or softer? You cannot go just boom, 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 and don't get what you're looking for, because then you're going to start having errors after your 5th or 6th or 7th, because you're just going to go subconsciously bigger and bigger and bigger and take more risks.
Right.
Game doesn't work like that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to jump into your story. So just walk us through how you grew up in South Africa. How did you get started in tennis? I assume you played a lot of singles as well as doubles growing up. Just take us through your full kind of story, how you got to the pro level.
I'm going to have to try and, if I go over 2 or 3 minutes, you got to stop me, because I remember this answer took me 20 minutes on a previous Zoom and I realized not good. So anyway, my parents were just like 3-5 level players. And I would just go and watch them, when they played weekend leagues in South Africa. And I played 3 sports at high level in school, was cricket, rugby, and tennis. And gradually I let go at 12, I let go of rugby. And at age 18, I had to decide tennis or cricket. I had to pick. I was never really great in tennis in my school years. I was only ranked in South Africa 21 under 18 in South Africa. And my parents didn't really have money. They were school teachers, but we were never poor. We never felt poor. So I stopped playing tennis at the age of 18. And a month later, that ended up being my father-in-law, who passed away now because I married his daughter on his way. So they just called me out of the blue and they said, his son, that's a year younger than me, lives in Pretoria. It was then Joburg then. Come and stay 6 months with us and practice with him every day on the court. We have a court. Because I signed up, well, not signed up, you had to go to the Defense Force in South Africa for 2 years, either before you go to college or after college. So during that 6 months, if he didn't call me, I would have stopped playing tennis. So one call changed my life.
Wow.
Went to play there 6 months. He felt after 3 months on the tennis court ball machine every day, I had nothing to do, to wait until the kids come out of school at 4 o'clock to play with them. He felt, wow, he's getting good. And he called the South African Tennis Federation and he says, you have an under 21 grass court tournament. There's 8 guys. He's not good on ranking. You should put him in. And they gave me a wild card because of him calling. And I won the tournament.
Oh, wow.
And that changed my whole life, because now all the selectors started seeing, wow, this guy from a small town in Uitenhage, South Africa, he just beat all our 7 guys who got in on ranking. So that's kind of how the whole process started. I still went to the Army. And then after the Army, I turned pro. I did have a full scholarship to go to college after high school, even at 21 ranked, but we couldn't afford the air tickets. My dad just said, how are we going to get you there and back? That means you leave forever. So I just gave up tennis. It was hard.
Yeah.
So a phone call changed my life, and I never looked back.
Wow. So you were on the court every day for 6 months, and
suddenly you have no school, you have no commitment. You have no commitment. And my mother-in-law, she coached. And this family was the best tennis family in South Africa. They had 3 kids, and 3 of the 4 kids, 3 of the 4 were number 1 in South Africa in their age groups. I mean, my wife played Wimbledon at the age of 16, and my wife's sister played junior Wimbledon final at the age of 15. Gosh. So there's an amazing family.
It's a good environment.
And the brother got a full scholarship to come here.
So what were you doing every day? Would you wake up and just start playing matches, or were y'all doing drills? Or
no, well, it was just me and my mother-in-law and the ball machine. So we would have this ball machine that we would run and do targets. You'll have 20 balls that will go side to side, or you would have you'll just move and count how many times you could hit the ball in the target. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoons, the brother-in-law were coming out of school, so we would play sets. And then in the evening, I would play with the father, or I would play with someone else that the mother is coaching. So I'm just suddenly hitting balls hours and hours on the court.
Wow.
And it just went just like that. I was very dedicated, and I still am. If I take on something, I go beyond the call of duty. And that's just how I was brought up and how I do it.
Right. So then from there, you start your pro career. You're around 20, 21 years old?
Yeah, and I was fortunate because from my hometown, there was a Michael Myburg that was about 200 in the world. So he says, "You want to play doubles with me?" Wow. And obviously, yeah, I'm traveling with a guy that's been out there already 4 or 5 years. And the first 3 tournaments we played, we won. So suddenly a little bit of money is coming in. I have travel expenses that I can cover.
Yeah.
And so when you start winning tournaments, other players sees it and they ask you to play. And, I was also lucky when I was about 12, 13, 14 years old. Linky Bosov, who played doubles on the tour with Ilana Kloss, that now runs World Team Tennis, and with Billie Jean King, they won the US Open doubles. So every time she came home, I would practice with her and hit with her, and what an honor that was. So I was blessed. I was really blessed of the people that were around me, and I had really great parents who just supported. They never got involved, but they just supported. And shame, looking back now, I know it cost them a lot of money driving and staying in hotels.
So at what point, so you turn pro at 20 or 21. At what point did you realize, okay, this is a career for me? Like, I'm a legitimate top 20 player in the world, or at least that potential?
I don't know when I knew about goals, about a ranking, but when you just go out of the army and you go to Europe and you won, it was kind of equivalent to the 25,000s that are now out.
Okay.
And you win the first 2 you play, and then you went to America. It was in Cleveland. Suddenly you play a ATP tour event. And I think at those years, those were like 150s or 125s. That was similar to the 250s now we have, and 500s.
Sure.
And here you play guys who played at Wimbledon. And we ended up beating them to win the whole tournament. And I'm thinking, wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm like thinking, this is like life. You play and you get money to play. You're kind of naive at that stage. Then you knew, I think I can make money. I can keep going. There's enough money to keep going. And the more you see that, the harder you work.
So you said you were naive at that age. So one of my questions for you was going to be, what advice would you give yourself at, say, like 20, 21 years old?
About?
Let's say you could go back to immediately after you won that tournament in Cleveland, and you can tell yourself anything. You have, say, 2 minutes to talk to yourself. What would you say?
I probably, I'm a big Christian. So at that stage, you go on your knees every time and you say thank you for, just being able to do this, for the talent you got, and for letting me be, at that stage, you're injury free. So you're thankful for what there is. And then you're looking at, that hopefully you will make good decisions moving forward. Can you be with people that can help you? Because remember, you're on your own. And, if I can get to this level that I've just did in a matter of 3 weeks, if I work harder and even harder, that I already did work hard. So I always maxed out.
Yeah.
Then there is more possibilities. And I think what was in the back of my mind, when you start making these checks and how hard your brother and your mom and your dad work for their money, you kind of feel, wow, I know they're enjoying me doing this, and it feels like maybe their support was all worth it now, and you just keep going.
So what? So now you're through Cleveland. I assume you continue to play tournaments, and some of them you win, some of them you don't. At what point did you start playing with Paul Annacone? And y'all went on to win the Australian Open. Y'all were the #1 doubles team in the world for a time.
Well, the thing what I always tell people, and while I'm coaching now, because what is the hardest thing now when your player plays? They work so hard, and you work them hard, and you get their confidence up, and they go and they lose. And they come back and they do it again. And all coaches, we all run into this thing with our players. So just to let you know, it was never easy in the beginning, because what happened is, I think because I started doing well, I got to start playing with all these guys that are at college in America, and they were at tournaments. And then South Africa was banned to play for the country. So what they did, because of the apartheid during those years, so they had some teams from America and Europe and stuff come in as just, have some tournament-like team events. And I got to meet Annacone that came to South Africa. And we got to, hang out. And the year after that, I went to England and qualified for Queens and lost to Paul Annacone in the third round. I had an amazing week. And we had a close match. I thought it was close. He probably doesn't think it was close. And suddenly we developed kind of a friendship. And he always played with Eric Kurita, that had one of the biggest serves. Mm-hmm. And in Australia, we were just there 1 year. Kurita got injured about 15 minutes before the deadline of this warm-up tournament before Australia. He called me up. He says, Christo, do you want to play doubles this week? And I didn't really have a partner then. I said, yes. I was going to just hang around to sign up. That's how it started. We were match point down in the first match. Yeah. We won it. We won the tournament. Had we lost that match point, we probably would never have played together, because we gave it a go. We were good friends, but it's not like, he was a #1 player in American college, so he could get anyone to play with him.
Yeah.
So I always say God works in mysterious ways, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I had 2 lucky breaks.
Right.
My late father-in-law called me up after I stopped tennis. Mm-hmm. I found a partner that ended up gave me a great career, Paul Annacone. But we were match point down in our first match ever, and then won the tournament.
So were you were signed up just for singles for that tournament then?
No, I was looking for doubles, but at that stage, you're kind of trying to see who you're going to play with, and you're not really excited about people that are looking for partners, and then you kind of borderline on the cutoff.
Okay.
So you kind of wait. Will someone that's maybe a higher ranking ask you?
Right.
And it just worked out that his partner got injured, and he was high, so he asked me. Yeah. He probably could have asked a lot of other guys. So thank you, Paul.
So you also reached number 19 in the world in singles.
Top 20. Top 20 sounds a lot better.
Top 20.
Than 19.
20. Well, we won't worry about the specific.
No, 19 is totally fine.
19 is nothing to be ashamed of. So either one is pretty good. So how did you balance? It sounded like your first 3 tournaments you win doubles. You start playing with Paul Annacone in doubles. Where does singles fall into all this?
What was very interesting, when Paul and I started doing well, they had this ranking system that every year starts at 0, and there was just a bonus pool of money at the end. So because we had a really good start to the year, because we won the Miami tournament that was just played. When we won that, it was in Key Biscayne. Suddenly, as a team, we now are lying ahead, and everyone is going for the bonus pool at the end of the year. And now there's a chance you can get money. So every week where Paul went to play singles, because he was in, I went. But because we went to the quarters or the semis, I couldn't get to the next tournament and play singles qualifying, because at that stage I was ranked 287, 300, 250. I'm in that range. Right. Couldn't get in. So that's why the ranking was about 120, but because of that doubles run we started, it dropped all the way to 300 because I couldn't defend any points because I just went doubles. But because I'm practicing with him every day and he's moving up and up and up, and I have a guy that went to 11 in the world, I'm practicing with him every day. And he was amazing because he would every day say to me, your break is going to come. And I would start winning points and games of him in the practices. Mm-hmm. And then my coach who helped me also was a friend of Lendl. So just being able to practice with these people gave me confidence that I am going to get my break. I just can't get to these tournaments. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of hung in there, and somehow I got some small breaks and the ranking started moving up, and then the singles caught up with the doubles.
Okay. So when was that break? Did you?
That was, I think, the year after the Australian.
Okay.
I think the Australian was December, I think, and then Miami was the next year in April.
Okay, got it. Okay. So to stick with doubles, what did you feel like? This can be the beginning of your career, the end of your career, the entire career. What did you feel like you specifically did on the doubles court better than anyone else?
Pick a partner.
What about this thing you did second best?
Okay. Listen to him. I was fortunate. I had very good people around me, and Paul was obviously very good. But we can get into doubles. Doubles for me is a lot about chemistry. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that I've played with a lot of other number ones, and we'll laugh at it now if him and I talk about it, because the Woodford and Woodbridge, mm-hmm. They were like the Bryan brothers during our time from Australia, and we had this one tournament in Atlanta. Woodford is not playing, so Woodbridge said to me, and he was one in the world, he said to me, you want to play doubles? And I said, yeah. I mean, when a number one player in the world asks you to play doubles, or anyone, you say yes. We were suck together, and we still laugh about it. We scrambled to win points as a team. We lost first round. The next week, he went back to play with his partner. They won a tournament, and I played with Annacone again, and we did well again. Sure. So I think chemistry is more important than the ranking, because you have to understand how to play together.
So then what do you think you and Paul did better than other teams?
If you look at how we played, we combined really well in playing a certain kind of strategy. Mm-hmm. So Paul he played always like that, and I kind of got more into it as I was more with him. He used to come in on everything. Okay. I remember he played in Los Angeles. He beat Stefan Edberg 7-6, 6-7, 7-6. And there was not one ground shot hit in the whole match, because we played the doubles final right after that. Yeah. So because my net game was my weapon and my return was my weapon, we combined really well, because his weapon was serve again. And we both could return well, and we both could volley well. So we only had one game every 4 games that was a weakness in our arsenal, or whatever you call it. And that really helped us. So he was good at the net, so he could move around, help me hold my serve. Mm-hmm. And because he served so big, I think he had one of the top 3 biggest serves in the game when we started out. So no one could get any rhythm returning. So when I served, they really were kind of maybe even more nervous, because they felt we have to break him. And they haven't really returned for 4 games because he just served aces and so hard.
Right.
So we had a really good combination of where we were good and how are we going to hide our weaknesses. And he was just a very great guy to play with. I'll give you a great example because you need to know what a great guy Paul Annacone was on the tennis court. He was a deuce side player. I was ad side, and we can talk about who should play deuce, who should play ad. We all have different opinions about that. And this specific one match, although I would say that if we both good in returning, I felt I was maybe the more consistent returner. But at this match, he was just like, it was like we in Vegas, wherever we bet, we winning. Doesn't matter what we play in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I had break point, and it was just like 15. It goes back to 15 all. And then after a while, when you're not making anything on the ad side, you start kind of doubt, and you start pressing, So he walked up to me, and he laughs at me, and I'm not really. I say, "What are you laughing? I don't need to see your smiley face right now. I am struggling." And he says, "I'm just going to tell you that today I'm so lucky that I'm playing on the deuce side, because these guys are serving so well to you. I don't want to be on your side." And to me, they just can't serve because they're not serving that good. So we use a psychology to kind of make me feel, listen, doesn't matter who was going to return on the ad. You just go and try your best. No one is going to return their serve. Right. Listen, I know you was lying, but the way that chemistry evolved between him and me was, I'm very big on how you communicate with your player. When is the time to help them? When is the time for support? And that's what makes a doubles team. What makes a doubles team good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good advice.
Yeah. I do a seminar. Seminar sometimes, just about, positive coaching and positive talking and how people should explain and things like that. And
right.
It's amazing how something positive is always going to be better than if you want to coach someone. If you want to coach someone all the time, they're going to get the feeling that they're not doing good enough. They're not doing anything correct.
Right. Yeah, that puts kind of unfair pressure on people.
100%.
And it's something, it's kind of surprising to me how often I'll see, not even just coaching, but, when I play in these USTA tournaments or leagues, I'll see partners who are struggling returning on one side, for example, like you said, and the other partner will be over on their half of the court, like shaking their head or like, getting frustrated with them. And it's like, how do you think they're going to start returning well with you giving them negative feedback like that? Like, how's that going to do anything but make it worse? Like, do you want to win as a doubles team, or do you like want somebody to blame when you lose? And it's crazy to me, but it does happen. Some people don't get it.
It happens 99% of the time.
Right. It's really strange.
And also, what's interesting, just as an individual player, I sometimes just go to the courts and you just listen. Have you ever seen anyone play and hit a great shot and say something out loud, what a good shot they hit? And they could hit 10 or 12. You can watch them. They miss one shot. They verbally have to say something about that shot they just missed. Right. It happens all the time.
Right.
It's the most fun thing just to watch. And you kind of think, how are they going to feel better now on the next shot? They just talked themselves that it was the worst shot they played. They can't play this. They never make this shot, but they just made 12 or 13 other ones and they didn't say anything. Yeah. There is no perfection in tennis. It's just never going to happen. I learned this the other day. It's a moment. If you hit a great shot, it was perfect. Enjoy the moment. It was just a flash.
Right. Yeah. One thing that's changed that a lot for me is, and this is, we were talking before the call about my work with Warren Pretorius at Tennis Analytics. Then I've also worked with Craig O'Shaughnessy over at Brain Game Tennis, and he has this stat he likes to use in a lot of his seminars of like the number one player in the world wins 53% of their points. And that, when I first heard that, that kind of blew my mind and changed my perspective on like losing points, right? It's like you're going to lose around half of the points you play, regardless of if you win or lose the match. So, losing a point is not going to be the end of the world. In fact, you can sometimes lose points and set up future points, So anyways, that's a really good topic we could dive into.
I have this story that I tell people. Mm-hmm. Think of a guy that's going to surf on the ocean. He's going to want to catch a wave. So he swims out there, he gets the wave. He's on top of the wave. He's surfing. That's when you win the points. You're not surfing the whole match. You're not winning all the points. Then you're going to fall off. Then the opponent are winning points. Now you're swimming back and go and serve again. Right. Can you serve longer than your opponent if we add up the cycles in the match? Right. Can you serve? Can you win 3 points in a row? Let him only win 2. Can you win 1? You got to become, every time you fall off, climb back up, swim, right. Climb back up. You lose a point, climb back in the match, try and win the next point. You lose 3, climb back.
Sure.
And think of that. And my coach was really good in this. Yeah. He says, you're never going to win all the points. Don't even try. Just never going to happen. What do you do when you lose a point is the most important thing that you can learn about. Sure. How are you going to handle losing that point? Because it's going to drive you nuts. Annacone had a very good saying. You're going to play a match and divide it in 3s. Your top third of the match is you play autopiloting. We go to Vegas, we bet, we'll win every point. You go down the line, you play through your legs, you close your eyes, everything works. Great. There's a middle part of a third where you're going to play, and it's just going to be, you're going to play hard. You're going to fight. You're going to win. You're going to lose some. You're going to win some. You're in the grind. And then you get to the bottom third. This is when you're just not knowing what's happening today. I mean, this guy is just winning points. You not, what should I do? If you can find a way to be competitive in the bottom third and deal with that, you will become a player. If you cannot play when the chips are down, tennis is not for you. Go and find another sport. It's just not going to happen because you're going to get challenged in every match you play. Mm-hmm. And that's my message to coaches is you got to find out what is your player going to do when the chips are down. Do you train that part? Do you know that if you watch them and the chips are down, or you're a player and you play, do you know what your steps are going to be? You need to be able to know that.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I like the analogy of the surfing, because then it's like, it's more about, everybody's going to have their wave, and it's more about how quickly can you get back up on the surfboard and paddle out to catch the next wave. And if you can kind of shorten that time that you're spending paddling and trying to get back on the surfboard, then you can spend more time on the wave and winning more points.
Now you can see I coach by telling stories. Yeah. Because stories, if the story makes sense, the player can buy into it.
Right.
And if he believes in the story. Now, if he plays badly, he knows, hey, the other guy surfed. I want to go and surf now. And that's how life is. It's how to deal with diversity or things that's going to go wrong.
Sure.
So storytelling for me is how I coach.
Yeah. Yeah. It sticks with people for sure. So I wanted to ask about, so you won the Australian Open in 85 with Paul Annacone. Talk a little bit about that. And then I think you have a picture to show us we're going to publish this on YouTube, but if anyone's listening, you can go to
Yes, I do.
.com/podcast to find all this information. So this is a picture of you and Paul.
So this is Paul and I winning the Australian Open. And I'll give you something that also happened at the Australian Open. Because it was on grass and it rained, I don't know if it's ever happened, but we won the Australian Open without playing on the center court the whole tournament. So my Grand Slam title, I never played on the center court. Wow. But what's very interesting about this picture is there's something in this picture that it will never happen again in sport.
Right.
I always have this quiz. So, maybe we'll get, when you play this, you might have people, and I don't know if you want me to give you the answer, or we'll give it at the end of the podcast. We can give the answer, so you can always delete the answer and put it up later on. But there's something in this picture that will never happen again.
Yeah, let's.
But pretty cool that someone took that picture of Paul and I.
Yeah, that's a great picture. So let's not give them the answer. If anyone wants to share their answer, they can reply in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or reply to the newsletter or anything like that. And if you get the answer correct, I'll send you a Tennis Tribe t-shirt. And we'll include the answer at the very bottom of the show notes, so nobody cheat. Maybe I'll wait a week or so to put that up.
Sorry, I have a block on my cell phone if people are going to call me.
You're good. No problem. So let's dive into some strategy. So now you're in Austin, Texas. You're at Barton Creek, correct?
Yeah, the Omni Barton Creek Spa and Resort, where Omni put in like 140 million to redo everything. It's really beautiful. They have 4 golf courses. They have brand new tennis courts with amazing lights. So very nice setup here at the Omni.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've played there a few times in Austin, and it's probably my favorite facility in the city. So are you coaching mostly high-level juniors, college players, pro players, club level 3-5-4-0 players? Tell us kind of how you're spending your time now.
Okay, so I'm very blessed now. I have three sections that I'm involved. Mm-hmm. The first one is I'm running professional tennis tournaments. It's called the dropshotseries.com that you can maybe put up. Yep, we are running 225,000s in for the 3rd year now in Austin, and the founder of Dropshot is Mr. Brian Sheffield, who is in the energy sector that sold his company now, and he just loves tennis. He's one of the 5 owners of Austin FC soccer team. Mm-hmm. And he loves tennis, so we started running professional tennis tournaments. We're looking now to bring a 3rd big event next year to Austin. That's in the negotiations. Then I became the Davis Cup captain for South Africa. That just got that a few months ago. So that's a new thing that I'm doing for the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. Then the 3rd one is I'm coaching a girl who's 400 in the world, who lives here, who's playing currently Fed Cup for Mexico in London this weekend. And the top junior that was 12, 14, and 16s, until shame, her coach ran over her foot. They came for 3 weeks after a year of really not playing, year and a half. So the 2 of them I'm working with. So people come to Austin. I don't promote, I don't advertise really. I don't coach at a club hour by hour. I do more assignments.
Okay.
And what I do with the packages is when they come, we give them total support in obviously tennis. And then if you go to mataustin.com, I will send you the link. It's now the continuum method. I've been with this guy 20 years. It's called muscle activation technique. They make sure all the muscles work. They don't send you to the gym unless they know that your muscles are all firing. Then you get a special program, and they call them like the electrician of the body. So they find weaknesses and they add stability. This is by far the top thing in the world. The guy who invented it is in Denver. My friend now is working privately with professional basketball players where their people can't fix their own players. That's how good this system is.
Wow.
So I take people who come in any level, and they come for 2 weeks or a month, and we add that in and give them top tennis coaching with how they understand their body, and if there's weaknesses, and then that will prevent injury, and they're on a special program. So it's a very highly elite thing that I'm doing with my players here if they come in. Sure. And then sometimes I don't have players, and then I play a little bit of golf and obviously Davis Cup and putting all these infrastructures now for all the tournaments we run to give opportunities for players to come and play and make points. So I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like you've got a lot going on. And for anybody listening,
I have.
We can link to all of that in the show notes as well, so people can find all that information. So how do you think about coaching? Most of the listeners are going to be in the, club level USTA 3035, 4045 range. How do you think about strategy for those players versus higher level kind of college or pro players?
I always, when I do it, my wife, like I said, played Wimbledon, and we played Wimbledons together in mixed doubles. So we always run these camps, like a 3-hour camp where 8 people sign up, and I give them a booklet of every situation that will come up in doubles, whether you play Wimbledon or whether you at 2-0 level. And I start the conversation like this. I know that if you're a woman, that people like Serena and Halep and Brady and all those players, if you're a guy, Federer, they all hit the ball better than you, but there's nothing wrong with your brain and theirs. You can still think like them. So let's address today, we're going to coach you doubles, and we're going to tell you where the best shot is to hit when this situation come up, whether there's 2 at the front, 2 at the back, all 4 players at the back, 1 at the net, 3 at the back. So all 3 players, all 4 players, every time will know what is the best shot to try now. And then it's only the execution, because what's happening when I'm watching doubles now, and I'm sure you, because you are also getting involved with strategy, we first want to eliminate that a 2.0 or a 4.0 or someone that's ranked 10 in the world, they don't try and hit shots that are just not the risk reward.
Yeah.
It's just not there. Yeah. So why try those shots if the best player in the world won't try that shot? Right. If we can, and then it's an art to explain to them why you shouldn't try it and why that shot is better. That's where the tricky part comes in, and that's how to explain it has really makes sense, and how you're going to show it and play it out for them. That's why this is a 3-hour clinic I do. So then if you eliminate that, I think you already eliminate a lot of errors that will creep in. So for them just to believe that win or lose is not what it's about. In the beginning, it's make the right choices and then be in the right positions on the court. And a simple thing that I know you're going to coach everyone that knows doubles a lot about it anyway is if your partner hits a great shot and that partner's partner is at the net and they poach and they run on the service line and poach.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
No one is going to do that, that understands that if you poach there, you got to go 5 steps before you really will get to the ball.
Right.
And then you have to explain how close should that person be at the net. Mm-hmm. Because I am a total believer, the closer you are to the net, the worse volley you are. Now, that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows, but I'll just let that go also. But there are ways to play doubles, and it's about decision-making. Singles also. There are basic plays absolutely. To structure points, and then you bring in the talent of the player where you can tweak it. Because, wow, they have this shot, so go against the rule and let them do that.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about the risk reward, which is a great analogy. I've got a blog post I wrote a long time ago about what poker can teach people about tennis, because I think of everything in like odds kind of, and like what are the odds I'm going to make this down the line backhand, and what are the, if I hit it 10 times, I miss it 4 times, they hit a volley winner twice, and then I win the point the other 4 times. So I'm only winning 40% of those points. So that's not good enough. So what are some common risks that you see people taking at that 3-5-4 level that they shouldn't be? Some common mistakes.
There's one very simple rule, and it's probably easier to show it on drawings. But one thing that is very important for me, you have to protect your partner. So there's a simple rule here. Mm-hmm. If your partner is at the net and you are at the back.
Yeah.
Now let me step back. We are now going to assume that the 2 players we play are of equal level.
Okay. Because
that is another thing you're going to have to sort out, who's weaker, who's better. And when you get to the pro level, you also know if this person has a weaker forehand or backhand because you're good enough to get it to the side. But at 2-0 or 3-5 level, you just need to know which player is weaker. But let's assume for this, to explain my theory here, that both opponents are the same level.
Right.
So if I'm playing with Will, and Will is at the net, and I'm at the back. And the opponents are on the other side, but the opponent one of them is also at the net.
Okay.
If I hit to the opponent that's at the net, he's so close to my partner. He's going to kill my partner. Mm-hmm. So I want to hit to the person the furthest away from my partner when my partner's at the net. It's a basic rule until proven wrong.
Right.
But what I see is, I give you the normal player, keep hitting, but then the player at the baseline is not the player that's going to win the point for me. If I play with you at the net, well, you're going to win it for me. I'm going to set you up. But most of the time, the players in my position at the back feel after 2 shots, they have to do something now to win the point. It's like a singles mentality.
Yeah.
So that's one of the simplest rules. Protect your partner. Think this is your wife when you were dating her and you were boyfriend, girlfriend. Protect her. And this is your best friend. You hit the wrong person, they're going to kill him.
Right.
And that's just a simple rule that I have.
So it sounds like people just get a little impatient with the court rally, and they go down the line too early when it's not the right time.
The best player in doubles is the one that's sometimes the most passive, the most quiet. You don't know, wow, he's doing nothing. And then the one who gets all the rewards is this guy who makes all these flashy plays and wins this point, that point, but they never knew that the silent partner set him up.
Right. Yeah, the best
player. So don't worry. Do you want to win or you want to be the hero? You have to make that decision before you play.
Right.
What's more important?
So, any other mistakes you see at that club level?
It's hard to explain everything, but I think it's shot selection, like we do say. That's why you got to kind of walk people through.
Yeah.
I think in the lower level, because people always look at TV and watch other players, the quicker they can understand that there's no perfect in tennis and not talk themselves out of when they play a bad shot, because it's part of the game. You're going to play. And if your partner is not playing well, it's sometimes not good to coach them. It's better to go and just support them and then maybe go to the coach at the club after the match and say to the coach, listen, my partner, man, she missed 50, 25, 30 volleys, or she couldn't return. Maybe if you have the private lesson with her, can you just check that out? But for you to coach your partner on the tennis court, remember, they look at you as just a normal player like them.
Right.
So why should they listen to you? I know you mean well, but I think it's hurting someone more because they're already feeling pressure. Just support. You'll be amazed when someone plays and their muscles are relaxed or they enjoy playing with you because you just support them. They can switch in a match because they're not worried about how bad they play, what you are thinking. Now you want to try and help them. It actually doesn't, you're not going to benefit from it. Let someone fix them and have them feel at ease with you. Let them want to play with you. And believe it, your time will come also where you have a bad match. And what would you like them to tell you? Do you want them to start coaching? Hey, you got to stand further back. You got to do this. You got to do that. And the biggest thing that I was taught, and I do this with my players anyway, and this is also a good thing for whatever level you are. Every day you play, something is not going to work. It's not negative. It's just expect. Today, my forehand is not working. Oh, yesterday, my serve was so good. Why can't I serve it today? There's always something in a match that works. I promise you there's something that works. Use that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, in trying to come up with kind of game plans or strategies around scenarios where something does break down. So like if my forehand's not working today, like how can I mitigate that and like figure out
go to the net,
how to
hit
less
backhand,
right?
serve aces.
Exactly.
Find something that works. That's why when I do any clinic in doubles, I say the 3 biggest things to know about doubles. The first one, huge, is communication. Second one, communication. The third one, not as important as the first 2, it's communication. It's really how you talk to each other.
Yeah, it's super important. And that was a good point about the coaching. So, going to their coach after the match and telling their coach, hey, they struggled with their volleys today. Can you check it out? That's something that I tell my readers of the newsletter and on the podcast a lot is, during a match is probably the worst time to be coaching someone, especially on technique. I see some people say like, oh, it looks like you're coming up on your forehand or something, like in the middle of a match, as if they're going to fix their forehand technique like during a match.
Technique is using the wrong side of the brain. It's 200 times slower than the subconscious. Rather tell the person then where to hit or come to the net or you want to serve volley. Any technical lesson while you play is the worst thing you can tell a player because it goes back to the conscious mind that is 200 times slower and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
Well said. Well, perfectly said. Well done.
And a lot of the issue I feel like people have is just delivery. Like sometimes they're trying to communicate the right thing, but they deliver it in a way that that can seem like it's coaching too aggressively, or it can be taken um, kind of as a little bit demeaning and add pressure to that partner, you know. So, um, anyways, yeah, we can go on and on about communication.
When I do a seminar or I talk to people, I have two things I'll work on. And this actually happened. I had a conversation with Paul one day because we all understand the game. And he said, there's a lot of coaches who understands the game. The best coaches knows how to explain it to the player. So I then took that and I live by this rule. If you coach a player and he cannot do it, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Don't blame the player. You either ask the player to do something that they physically not good enough. Example, the lady or the man is a 2.5 and you say you got to kick the serve off the side of the box. It has to kick to the right. They are physically, it has to be done in a certain way. Maybe your body can't do it. If that's not the reason and they can do what you asked them, then you didn't explain it correct.
Right.
So you got to find out those are the two rules. And if you as a coach live by those two rules, I think the sky is the limit what your players can do. And that's trial and error.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. So I know you have to run here soon. I want to do a few more strategy questions. Earlier, you mentioned playing the deuce versus ad side. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think this is debatable. There's no wrong, there's no right. But as a coach and seeing a team and kind of get to know them. So I have a feeling I might change, but I want you to think about this. And I hear this a lot. Best returner on the ad side. That's where all the important points are going to be. Break points.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying I won't change. I would just say I always have an open mind about this. So let's say now your best returner is on the ad side, the weaker one on the deuce side. So when people serve to the ad side, they're mostly going to be up 15 left, 30-15, 40-30, because the weaker returner is on the deuce, so the server should win more of the points. Correct?
Yeah.
Will the server be a little bit more aggressive, serving better second serves to the ad side because he's up? If he serves a double, he goes back to the deuce side. He serves again there. Easy, I'll win this point. No pressure on a second serve at 15-30, at 30-15, 40-30, okay? Because they're up. What happens if a server is every time or most of the time serving to the ad side, la 15, 15-30, 30-40? So let's speed this process up. Well, I'm on the deuce side. My wife is on the ad side. You serving to her at 30-40. You miss your first serve. Are you going to serve just as good a second serve to her as you would have if you served at 40-30? Yes or no?
No, I'll probably double fault.
or you might aim it a little bit more to the middle. You might take off 5 miles an hour. So suddenly my weaker return is also going to get a weaker return of serve.
Sure.
And so there is quite an interesting theory. When I talked to someone that was the best deuce side player in the world in the 1970s, he says when they talked about him, I talked to Stan Smith and Starley and Newcomb and those people.
Sure.
And they said, best returner on the deuce side.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. And then McEnroe actually came along and he was so good. Doesn't matter where he played. But maybe that thought will make you think in not just saying okay, the rule says best returner on the ad.
Yeah.
And
I don't know who came.
I found that out in mixed doubles.
Uh-huh.
When the guy played on the deuce, it was very interesting how you had to figure out and think when you serve to the girl in mixed doubles.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who came up with that rule. I it's funny you mentioned it because I had a podcast episode about a month ago that I did on mixed doubles, and I talked about that rule. And I didn't know who came up with it, but I talked about, a lot of people say the guy should play the ad side, and I talked about why that is probably not necessarily true, but I didn't think of the pressure that it puts on the server. The thing that I had thought about is if a game ends at 40-15 or 15-40, the player on the deuce court gets 3 returns and the player in the ad court only gets 2. So at the end of the
100%.
match,
You cannot explain it better to someone what you just said. Let the better guy return more balls. But listen, there's exceptions. If they're going to both play from the baseline when they return, then are you putting the 2 best shots, if a backhand and a forehand, are you putting them at the baseline so that's in the middle because that's where more of the opponents are volleying? Right. So there are different things to figure out. Let's just say everyone equal. It's quite an interesting thing about the opponent serving then.
Yeah, it is. It's I hadn't thought about it like that, and it's definitely
so just have an open mind next time.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of these rules in tennis that people come up with, and I'm just like, I'm not sure that's true.
So I know I have to go soon, but so it's interesting. Can you see now how some coaches might figure something out and then that team just wins and they do well. And you look at the team, they do nothing different, but they're winning. But you as a coach know exactly what your team is doing and why they're winning, and no one else understands it. And then the same 2 people could be with a different coach and they're just struggling to win. So bless the coaches who are creative, finding out things and explore it, and then the players understand and enjoy and love it. Then the sky is the limit.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So any last kind of parting thoughts or requests of the audience before I let you go?
Yes, I always finish all my Zooms with, and this is again in the communication, this is for parents who is just with their kids at the house. The kids doesn't even play sport, just a general rule of thumb for me, whether you do coaching, whatever. Don't start a sentence with don't. The only sentence that starts with don't is the following sentence. Don't start a sentence with don't. Because every time people want to correct people, don't do that. Don't do that. They forget to look at something you want the player to do or you want your kid to do. Mm-hmm. I could have the best player here in the world. You're always going to see things that you don't want them to do. It's not going to work. But you don't need to tell them every time, don't do that, don't. They're going to lose their self-esteem. They're not going to feel they do anything right. And if it's again an art, but you can say it in a different way. Right. Instead of don't do that. If you do that, it's so better. Look what happened. Mm-hmm. And coaches who are coaching, if you can find a way to stop talking when your player makes a mistake in practice, find a way to correct that mistake without talking to him about it. Can you create something to work on it? And when he does it right, then tell him, that shot was so good because your elbow was up. Now he thinks because his elbow is up, that's why it was so good. Otherwise, you're going to say, don't drop your elbow. Don't drop your elbow. You missed the ball. Don't drop your elbow. So think just what the word don't will do to the person that you tell it to. Are you building him up, or are you taking his self-esteem away from him? Mm-hmm. And that's how I'm trying to live my life.
Wow, that's great advice. I think we're definitely going to have to do a part 2 at some point and dive deeper into all of this. Maybe next time I'm down in Austin, we can do it in person.
Listen, congratulations what you're doing. I know it's a lot of organizational stuff and things, but I hope the people enjoy what you're doing, and you're taking doubles to another level, and it's great. So hang in there. I hope you get a lot more followers, and I'm just about, where are you, in Dallas?
In Fort Worth.
Yeah, I'm only about, 3 hours from you here in lovely Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I'm down there a lot. So next time I'm in town, I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed it. And if they don't, then just delete me off the podcast then.
No, I'm sure they're going to love it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Will. And I'll text you the websites and stuff.
If you're a doubles player, you'll love our weekly doubles newsletter. Every Thursday, we send you doubles tips and strategies to help you improve your game and become a smarter player. When you sign up, you'll get a free 10-page guide on how to play with more confidence and dominate at the net in doubles. You can go to thetennistribe.com to sign up now.